So I'm going to start with a question, and it is, how do you and we create a software developer? We need to have new kinds of thinking, that's computational thinking, new ways of communicating with computer languages, with team collaboration, and systems talking to each other, and using new tools that are not only new, they keep changing. And how can we work with youth who have very limited access to digital skills and digital tools and transform them into functionally productive software developers in a year or 2 years? My name is Cara Turner. I'm the CEO of Project codeX, and I worked in software for many years before codeX, and so did my colleague, the CTO. We know what software teams need from their juniors. So codeX is designed to equip youth with the skills and the abilities they need to build sustainable careers in software. And as you'll see, it's not just the tech skills. There's product know-how, there's team know-how that make people highly employable youth. That way. The challenge we face is also an opportunity. There is this endless demand for software developers. In South Africa right now, we have demand. We can name 60,000 jobs that are unfilled. And those are that's a conservative estimate. We have 121,000 developers in South Africa, so the demand is for half of what we have. We'll never meet that following the processes we've followed before. It's not possible. At the same time, we actually have a huge potential talent pool in an unemployed workforce. There are about 12 million people in South Africa who are unemployed. Of those, just over half have either got matric or some kind of tertiary education. And codex's entrance criteria is matric. It's grade 12, senior certificate, high school exit. Of course, there are a few reasons why these people are not employed at tech at the moment. There are a number of barriers into the industry. What codeX does is not ignore them or try to work with only the people who do have access. We take them on board and take these barriers and these challenges into the design of our programs so that our graduates are able to take advantage of jobs in the knowledge economy. We have to fill in the education gaps. We create and train the computational thinking and the problem-solving skills the basic education just can't do. We introduce people to equipment and training and the ability to train themselves. And we have a really strong focus on gender parity, making sure that we have more women, we nurture women into the space, and we make sure that we create spaces that are comfortable for everybody. We introduce people to industry and slowly but surely close that growing digital divide. Our mission is to unlock South Africa's coding potential. And we can take people with absolutely no coding experience to intern level in 1 year and really advanced beginner who's able to work on systems in 2 years. And this is a bit about how we do it. We have an ecosystem approach, so we work from community to employment. When we go and find high potential candidates, we go out into communities, like we went to Rhodes High, go and speak to schools, work with youth development partners, and talk to people about coding in a very different, very accessible, jargon-free approach that is talking about how computers make decisions. Mostly they don't, it's humans, right? And computers implement them. And once we've kind of created awareness, our mission is to just shift people's thinking to maybe software is not this terrifying thing I thought it was. Maybe I can try and find out a little bit more. Maybe I can try an online course. And if they follow those online courses, we support them through that. And those who finish, the ones we focus on, we take through a functions basics to a boot camp where they start to write their own code and solve problems in code for the first time. It's really lovely, really powerful. And from there, we go into a one-year full-stack web development program where people learn end-to-end systems. Data comes into the system, we manipulate it, we send it out, and lots of projects from where they graduate either into intern-level employment or into learnerships where they get deeper algorithmic exposure and deeper theoretical exposure. A little bit about how we do outreach, and I think this is going to ask the question that the gentleman asked earlier. When we talk to people about coding, we don't introduce them to languages. We talk about the thinking, the kinds of things that computers are solving. And we start with what's the difference between computers and people. We make it as engaging as we can do. And once people realize that software and coding logic is really about the kinds of decisions we make with the information available to us, their curiosity is piqued, and they start to kind of follow and develop interests. And there's quite a big uptake from there. We talk about the kinds of careers you can follow in software. We play games to illustrate the difference between human decision-making and coding logic. And then we talk about how these come together and why the benefits of each, why we need both. We introduce people to online platforms that are already out there, are widely available, but are not well known. Things like code.org, where you learn how to structure code, like Free Code Camp, where you learn the syntax of languages and how to build those languages. And Solo Learn is another really powerful platform. So that's that got used through Rhodes High. And then we make sense of the information out there. And we talk about what kinds of training and what kinds of experience you need to be a web developer, because there are masses of online courses. We like these ones because they're low data and it can actually be completed on phones. Not ideal, but they do work. But what do you need? How should you make sense of what's available to you? In the 2-week boot camp, we're training how to write functions in JavaScript. People are writing their own code for the first time. They've done it on Free Code Camp, but now they're actually problem solving for themselves in code. And through the 2 weeks, it's full-time, either on-site or hybrid, fully remote. They develop really good workplace habits as well. We focus on agile practice, we focus on functions, but we also focus on fun. And some of the feedback we get is along the lines of, when I was a student, I didn't enjoy coding because it was all about passing a module. Now, I'm having fun, and I'm learning new things every day. And then this is a really common feedback. I thought coding would be super hard. And let's face it, it's not easy. But humans are incredible beings. And so, wow, I was shocked as what I could do. It is amazing how many more people can write coding logic than were ever encouraged to try it out. It's really, really amazing. And in this time, we're also exposing people to workplace tools like Slack, like workflows, communication practices. And we give them feedback that is not about passing and failing. It's not about your function works or it doesn't. We're looking for things like your learning pace, your ability to manage uncertainty, and how well you interact with each other. And when we start, we don't expect people to be perfect. It's not possible. What we're looking for is people who are going to get some feedback and act on that and move towards when we say this part is much too insufficient, we need a lot of improvement here, and we see an action on that, great indicator. And if it's orange, there's just some improvement needed, and if it's green, you're on. And we very seldom get feedback about why we are in the right place, what we're doing that is right. And this starts to build an image of what a software developer identity might be, and helps people find how to show up and what the behaviors are. Yeah, and we measure responses to feedback. When people have finished the boot camp, they have the basic blocks of coding, how to put things together. And in the Agile Web Developer Program, we take that deeper. And people really have the experience of learning while working. It's also full-time. It's a year, Monday, 9 to 5, online and on-site, fully facilitated. They build projects, they develop products, and they develop their team skills. Our approach is deeply immersive and applied learning, so that everything is always presented in a project and it's demoed every week. We have a very strong focus on taking complex concepts and making them relatable and understandable, because one of the biggest barriers to inclusion in software is that these concepts are presented in very abstract forms. They're hard to relate to, often in a third language, and we do have first language mentors. So what we do is we make it relatable, like taking the obscure things of inheritance and polymorphism and putting them in the context of beverages and different kinds of temperatures and ways of serving and how they need to be handled. With that very clear metaphor, it's easy to apply then outside of the codex context to the world at large. If it's vehicles and different kinds of tires or fuel types or so on, and then onto business domains, very transferable. We use a wide variety of tech and thinking tools, whether it's workshops, thinking tools, instructions, assessments, challenges, all these different ways of building tech and looking at the products that we're making make for a very rich learning experience and a deep learning experience. Particularly it's project after project, it's really embedded learning. And we make sure that our graduates not only can write code, but can build their own products. They can conceptualize an app idea. They can define the personas who have that kind of problem, draw up workflows and story maps and prototypes, what it's going to look like, and then build it and test it and deploy it and demo it to a codex-friendly public. So codex graduates leave not just writing code, but owning their coding skills. We also have a significant focus on personal professional development. For people who are coming from low-income environments who may not have had very much exposure to professional spaces, never been expected to show up in certain kinds of ways, there can be quite a big cognitive shift and an emotional shift. So it's mindfulness-based, it's breaking down self-limiting beliefs, it's building tools for self-care and for stress management. And it's also leadership and team skills. So personal leadership, team collaboration, and team development all form part of their time at Codex. At the end of Agile Web Developer, our graduates have a really strong foundation that unlocks a variety of tech careers. It is web development, obviously, that's where we focus. It's also systems development. But it's also things like data engineers. We have a number of grads who are working as data engineers now, and cybersecurity. Our grads can go into jobs that they didn't learn the skills for in Codex or other training programs because they spent a year at least learning how to learn and can take on whole new tool sets and whole new ways of thinking by just trying it out in a couple of months. They go into industry remote fit, industry fit, and culture add. They really do bring a lot of difference to the workplaces they go into. It's most powerful told in the story of our grads. For Ntsakelo, he wanted to build innovative coding solutions, but he didn't have the skills and didn't believe he could develop them. And he now has the picture and the understanding that he can learn the skills. He doesn't get the skills, he can learn them and just constantly improve to get more. For Peggy, she had no certification, no skills she identified, and no job prospects. And with Codex, she got all three. Most importantly was she was mentally prepared and she had a bigger picture of what the software career is, so she could move into a startup space, understanding the space she was in and the difference between a startup and a corporate workplace For Lolita, she genuinely just didn't think software was for people like her. She only had grade 12. She didn't identify as being smart. She really fought to get the skills she did. And once she had a job, she's able to support herself and her family and has changed her mindset to never giving up in the face of obstacles. And Nathri really just didn't believe he could get into software without going to university first. And so for him, that pathway was closed. He didn't have access to going to university. He's now employed at Accenture. And you can see there is a really good salary increase over time. We're creating livelihoods that are sustainable. Some of the partners that we've worked with over time, people who have built programs with us, people who've sponsored coders on our programs and have employed our graduates, really helping us to make the impact that we want to make through codeX. So that is how codeX is unlocking South Africa's coding potential. I have a few stats to share if I have enough time. Just briefly, 65% of our cohorts only have a matric qualification when they join us. 70% of our graduates are employed, and that's without a separate graduate employment, a placement division in codeX, which is definitely a growth area that will, on our path. We have 45% women participants, and we put a lot of work into nurturing women applicants, making sure we've created safe and equal spaces where there aren't any things, no tolerance for microaggressions, just a space and an acceptance that pretty much everybody feels imposter syndrome, and we manage that rather than try to pretend it shouldn't be there. 94% BEE, and our coders report on average a 250% salary improvement once they become employed. So that's large in their spaces. So that's codeX. We're projectcodex.co. We're on LinkedIn, and I'm Cara at projectcodex.co. Thank you.